Welcome back to part 4 of the best 118 scale crawler series, where I answer the question of who makes the best 118 scale rock crawler. Now we have two new contenders here. We have the HPI Venture18 U4 Bronco, and we have the Brushless Redcat Ascent18 Scout. Now I've made some upgrades to both trucks to optimize performance. Starting over here, we have the Redcat Ascent18. Now I gave it heavier wheels, wrapped around stickier tires, wider as well, a little bit taller than stock. I'm running the stock suspension because I do believe it has excellent stock suspension. However, I did optimize the angles to make it perform a little bit better. Now I've also moved the battery to the front here. I'm just putting it on here with a double-sided tape. Moves the weight bias forward, as well as I added some wheel weights to the bottom here to offset the heavier roof rack that I installed here, guys. So this truck is pretty good right out the box. I've just done a few little things to make it a little bit better. I'm curious to see how it does today. So as for the HPI Venture18, this is a straight axle truck. So I went ahead and added some taller wheels. These are taller than the Redcat's wheels, as you can see there. That's to make sure the straight axles have the sufficient clearance to compete with the portal axles on the Redcat there. Now I've also given it longer shocks. It's the 65 millimeter shocks from RC all-wheel drive. That's to give it as much clearance as possible, because it does have a little bit of trouble clearing the lower links on the rear. So having the longer shocks will increase that ride height as well as the suspension travel to make sure this thing can perform as best as it can. Now, because I added the taller shocks, you're gonna run into some issues with the drive shaft, the stock one. It kind of wants to pull them out because the truck sits so much higher than stock. So I did upgrade the shocks, the drive shaft, pardon, as well, to make sure they don't separate when the truck is fully flexed out. We do have a lot of flex, as you can see there, guys. So that's pretty much all I've done to this truck. I did remove the spare tire from the back as well. But that aside, that's pretty much all that I've done to this truck. Everything else is stock, as you can see there. Now, we're going to be keeping track of each truck's performance through a points-based system. You can check it out right here. That way, we'll see how each truck progresses through the course. And then after everything, we'll tally up the scores and crown a winner. Now, with that said, guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into the action. If you haven't caught the other parts of this series, I'd urge you to go check it out, because each truck handles this climb in a very specific way. The Redcat is no different, but I will say, guys, without spoiling anything, the Redcat seem to have the perfect recipe to handle this climb, with all the jagged edges, the steep breakover angles, in a very unique way, guys. So check it out. You don't want to miss out on how good these Redcats actually are. As I mentioned earlier, the Redcat is on stock suspension. However, the stock suspension is really good. As you can see here, it has beautiful suspension articulation. There is a bit of contact between the tires and the body, but nonetheless, it still has the control needed to get over this large brick. It's able to complete stage 1 of the challenge course here. So let's wrap this up and see how the Bronco does. Now, this steep climb highlights just how different these two trucks are. The Bronco keeps unloading the suspension, and as a result, it can't quite find the bite it needs to make this climb, guys. This truck has underdriven front axles from factory, so as a result, what happens is the back end pushes the truck forward, and it's not able to get the bite it needs from the front end, guys. However, I do try multiple angles, multiple approaches to this climb, and it struggles with each and every one, guys. So if it's not able to do it, I'm gonna have to give it a hand so it can get to the next step. That first climb was a no-go for the Bronco, so let's jump ahead here to the next section of challenges to see how it does. Beautiful suspension travel, lots of it, guys. Big tires do help the clearance on the lower rear links. It does unsettle that suspension, so I have to wiggle that steering a little bit just to make sure it settles back down. You can see where those lower links are coming into contact with the brick there, but it has big enough tires and enough articulation to get over that section. So good job there for the Bronco. Let's finish off here through this section. Nice clearance from the body, so not as much rubbing as the Redcat. Good articulation as well. Again, it does like to unsettle that suspension, so you have to kind of wiggle that steering to get it to settle back down. Nonetheless, it gets the job done, guys. Let's see how the Redcat does to the next set of challenges. Now, this section of the course is a challenge of multiple factors required to being a good rock crawler. You're going to need good balance and stability, good steering angle, good suspension articulation, guys, and most importantly, good clearance and control to be able to get past these jagged rocks. Now, the Redcat has the recipe to get past this here in a pretty easy way. As you can see, it's maxed out on flex, guys, but I still have the control, I still have the balance to get up onto this big rock here. Good job, Redcat. Alright, so the Scout was able to complete this set of challenges, guys. Let's wrap it up and see what the Bronco is able to do through this section here. Now, these big tires are going to pay dividends for this truck because it does have straight axles. It's going to need all the clearance it can get, guys, to get past this jagged rock here. Another plus for this truck setup is the long travel suspension. It's able to get those tires all the way down, all the while keeping the body level to not unsettle the truck. It's getting up here nice and easy. It's not quite as smooth as the Redcat, however, it does have enough control to get past this section, so it's able to get it completed, guys. Not bad from the Bronco here. Both trucks have stage 1 of the course completed, so let's go ahead and add some points to the points list here to track the performance of both trucks as we enter stage 2. This Bronco has a short wheelbase, so it has been an issue for the shorter wheelbase trucks to get past this section. It's getting hung up a little bit on the lower rear links, guys, but it still has the clearance and the suspension travel needed to get past this big climb here. Now, the next issue it runs into, guys, as I mentioned earlier, is it unloads that front suspension, which unsettles the truck, and it's no different here, guys. It's having lots of issues here. It can't quite complete this section. So let's see what the Redcat's able to do here, guys. Again, it does have a short wheelbase, but it has a little bit more control of that front end, as well as good enough suspension travel to get over this section. This truck sits lower than the Bronco does, so as a result, the breakover angle is a little bit worse. I keep having to make adjustments to my line to get those rock sliders cleared, guys. However, eventually it does find the line and is able to get this section completed. Section of stage 2 is a good test for the approach, breakover, and the traction of the tires for each truck. Now, the Redcat is still struggling a little bit with the breakover angle, however, it does still have enough to get past this section here. The steering angle is excellent on this truck here, so you're able to maneuver the truck in quite some interesting ways here, guys. It does get this section completed. Very impressed overall with the performance of this truck here, guys. It is getting hung up just a little bit on the portal housings, but it does get the job done. So let's see how the Bronco does through this section. Approach and breakover angles are much better on this truck. However, the traction from the tires is a little bit less for this vehicle here. So it does eventually get the job done. Suspension travel is excellent on this truck as well here, guys. Same issue persists with the truck unloading the front suspension, so it's kind of up at a strange angle there. However, it does still have enough control to get through stage 2 of the course. So let's add some points to the points list to track the performance as we enter into the bonus gate. This section of the course is a good test of the maneuverability of the trucks as well as the approach and steering angles. And this truck is able to deliver on both fronts here, guys. It makes it up here pretty much with no issue at all, clearing the rock sliders with no problem at all, guys. So let's go ahead and test the Bronco through this section, and then we'll wrap up stage 3 and crown the winner. Bronco has much better body dimensions in terms of not rubbing the tires on the body here, so if it's able to demonstrate a much better overall performance than the Redcat, it might score just enough points to steal that victory here. So let's see what it does. So both trucks were able to complete the course. Now to summarize the performance of each, starting with the Redcat, it has excellent slow speed and high speed control, guys, beautiful steering angle as well as suspension articulation. Now it does suffer a little bit with the breakover angle, and it does get caught up on the portal housings every now and then. As for the Bronco, guys, it has lots of power. The big tires did come in clutch, so even though it's a straight axle truck, it had good enough clearance to get through the majority of the course. Now we're going to add the points to the points list here, and as you can see here, guys, the Redcat had just enough to keep that victory, guys. It does have excellent performance all around, so it is the winner of today's test. Get subscribed, guys, if you want to see more content like this. I always have more trucks coming, more builds, more setup tours, and more adventures, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.